Mickey Rourke in this picture. And Mickey's such a great wild card. I'd also love to ask you about directing Mickey. But what is he like as an acting partner to get something back from him in the film?
He's a fantastic presence alone, just to stand next to. And so when he's playing King Hyperion, to work with that is easy, because he's a scary dude.
And in talking about directing Mickey, we spoke a little bit about...
You don't direct Mickey, you just work out how to work with him.
And is that exciting to not know exactly what you'll get in each take? And does it keep you on your toes as a filmmaker?
Not particularly. I think usually when I do something, there's very few areas where you can improvise in. It probably keeps the actors on their toes, because you've got Mickey, a loose cannon with a spear where it contacts, he can't see more than 2 feet, and he's doing things like that to you, you wake up.
Your visual style is so impressive in this picture, but listening to how you worked on The Fall, your last film, it really feels like...
If there had been more of you, I wouldn't have had more money. Sorry.
What you got performance-wise, and especially the girl in that picture, is extraordinary. So, can you talk about approaching this film both visually and then to create a space for these people to play the roles that they play?
Well, that was a very personal film. I had it for 27 years, and it was just like my way or no other way. On something like this, when you make a much more accessible film, I wanted to make sure I was making it that my DNA would be in the movie. So I come in with very dark coffee, and then there's Mark and everybody with a glass of milk, and they keep putting it, and somewhere in between we find the right mixture for a lot of people. So I was aware that there's going to be a bit of tug and war, and I thought in the end I ended up with a film that I think so far has enough of my DNA and is highly accessible to people. Different animals. We're talking about working with a small Romanian girl that doesn't speak English, and Henry and Luke, and Isabel, a little different.
Obviously, one of the things that is going on in Hollywood right now is there is a push towards 3D for event movies, for bigger films, for grand motion pictures. For you, this is your first time working in the format. Can you talk about your approach to it and what it meant to you as a filmmaker?
It's a tool. It's like, it's a tool. You want to put the cart ahead of the donkey, and I think you'll have a problem. So for me, I'm looking at it and just saying, I don't want to poke your eye with it. If I did, I'd probably make Piranha 3D, Double D, whatever it is, and I'd like to. And I do enjoy those films. But this is just a tool. And I looked at it as my style tends, I think, to go 3D because I tend to shoot tableau and not fast-cutting stuff. If you were doing the Bourne Identity movies in 3D, I think you'd be in trouble. Handy-cam and shaky-cam stuff, Paul Greengrass, as great as the director as he is, it's not made for that format. What I tend to shoot naturally just tends towards 3D, and I had to just embrace it, and I loved it.
And Mark, as a producer, for you, was it an important choice, or was this something that you guys came to organically in conversation?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that if it's true, and you heard it here, that Tarsem wants to direct the sequel to Piranha, I have a pen right here, we can make the deal. And it's a fish pen. So, but here's what I would say. You just saw this footage in 2D, not 3D. You saw 300 in 2D, you saw Inception. Great movies and great looking movies by great masters are great movies. And so the thing we always think about is still good stories well told. The reason we amassed this amazing cast, and of course Frida Pinto and Lutz and Stephen Pierce, is because we wanted real actors in the movie. And we shouldn't lose sight of that, and we really pride ourselves on that. And that was really as important to Tarsem as to us. The fact that nobody is sitting here with those glasses today is okay with us. I'll say though that because this movie is going to be a unique ride and it's going to be a real popcorn badass movie, it's going to be a lot of fun in 3D, and I'm glad for that we're doing it. But I will bet you that the collector's item in the long run will be the 2D version of this movie.
And by the way, mentioning Kelly Lutz, I just wanted to pass along that he really wanted to be here today and tried everything. He was shooting the new Twilight until 6 o'clock this morning, and they got stuck in construction traffic on his way to the airport. So he wanted all of you to know he wanted to be here, and he's here in the spirit at least.
Right.
Can we talk about the fight sequences in this film and the war sequences? They are just massive, it looks like. And for the performers, in shooting things like this, is it a different sort of challenge than the emotional side of this film? What was the process of shooting these unbelievable war sequences for you? And how is it just physically by the end of these things?
Well, it's physically enormously demanding, and you are exhausted after finishing it. But it's exciting. You get to get the adrenaline going and the blood pumping without actually any threat of real death. So you've got to work with some fantastic stuntmen as well. It's fantastic.
And for you, Stacey,
I said fight sequence, pretty anything, and like, this is Grenade! Okay, so for me, the fight is very physically hard for them. But when it comes into green screen, it's just the devil kills you. Because intimate scenes require intimate object releases. And did an incredible job. Fighting, Vince Hughes again, unfortunately, I started Club because I kind of laid down the rules in this film that they would be more like Fight Club or just something that if they fought, physicalness involved. And let's say, I can fight flying squirrels. They can jump from 10,000 feet down, not hurt, but they're not going to fly up. So Batman, I know how to do. Superman, I don't know. I don't know how you break the rules of physics. So once we laid those down in the action, it became a lot more visceral, and I said very difficult for them, but ask them.
And for you, it looks like the whip is your at least one of your weapons of choice in the film.
Yeah, he has a few. Yeah, I remember when Tarzan told me I was going to use the whip, I couldn't really imagine what it was going to look like because obviously when we shot it, it was just a little bit of rope in green. But it looks awesome. Now you've done it. We shot it at about 500 frames a second or something, so when they played it at normal speed.
He's very good with whips and chains.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks, Mark.
If there was anything in this picture that you found particularly demanding or difficult to approach as a director, or was this something where the moment you had your vision and you started to put it together, it really fell into place for you?
Number 2.
Oh, really?
I think the difficult thing in always something like this is to get to make a movie like this. And I think once you get there, it's actually much easier than all the student projects you could ever want to do. So for me there, you have no money, you have no support, you have no nothing on something like this. Half the troubles are just to say, this is what I want to do. Do you agree? If they agree, then most of the battles are done, unless Malign.
We would actually like to throw some questions out to the audience now, give them a chance to talk to you guys. So I guess we're going to start here in the middle.
How are you guys doing? Okay. First of all, the director and the whole cast, the movie looks absolutely phenomenal. So I'm actually going to throw away my question. Henry, this is to you. Obviously, you know what I'm probably going to say. I never realized how big you were until all these ladies sitting next to me screaming. They're pretty much crawling right behind me. But actually, I just want to say good luck to being the new Superman, Clark Kent, Zack Snyder's awesome. I love his movies. Have you seen the new suit? Have you tried it on?
The new suit, it's still in development, so I haven't tried on this yet.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Okay, scene in Prometheus, got sunlight and fire that brings down to a human, something like that?
There is no Prometheus in the movie. He was the person who brought wisdom/fire to man, but he isn't in the movie. In this particular instance that you saw Zeus angry at, I won't tell you who, for interfering in man's affairs, whips him to death. But that was not Prometheus, it's Zeus.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Hi, question for Henry. Mr. Singh has described the movie as the artist Caravaggio meets Fight Club. How would you describe yourself? As more Caravaggio or Fight Club?
I think the Caravaggio bit's down to Tarsem. I just do the fighting bits.
Hi, the trailer looks awesome, and in Greek mythology, Theseus is a demigod. So I wanted to ask Henry if he's going to portray Theseus as a demigod / supermortal, or in your hesitant.
We've gone in the direction of not using Theseus as a demigod. He's just a man who's particularly good at kicking ass, but he's just a man.
Thank you. Hi, this question's for Henry Cavill.
You were picking on me.
I have a thing, just take the women off that lane and Henry's questions will stop.
Sorry.
So how did you feel about the costume you wore, and did you have any input on it?
Costume? Question mark?
Yes. Also, can I get your autograph?
There's some place I could do that, but the costume, yes, the costume designer Eiko is absolutely fantastic. We did have a certain amount of input in the way of what's comfortable and what we can move in, because some of the costumes we were fighting in, obviously they had to be able to last through a very complex piece of choreography. But otherwise, it was all down to her.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I'm losing my religion, and very stunning, very creative. And it comes to art or other films inspired me in that direction, sort of put, very specific and good style.
Influence, I think, everything you grow up on, the books you ask you to everything. If they stop in your head, Discovery Channel, animals eating each other, I don't know. And look at all that stuff. At least the film comes to me, they do I have a take on. And so far, the one that I find I can influence the most is I look at that and digest it, and somehow the vomit that I have tends to have a little bit of everything. Perfect. Thanks.
Another question for Henry. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great, thank you. You obviously went under some extraordinary physical transformations for this particular role. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about the discipline and what exactly you had to endure for it?
Oh, goodness. Exactly is going to be a long answer. I'll give you the brief version. It's a lot of cardiovascular, a lot of mixed martial arts, extraordinary amounts of body weight exercises, something in particular called Tabata. But otherwise, free weights were kind of left a little bit, and just mixed between mixed martial arts, eating very little, because I had to be very lean, and yeah, just basically.
I like that moment.
Hi, my question's for Mr. Singh. Just want to say I've been a huge fan since I first saw Vincent.
Thank you, sir. San Francisco. I don't know about the Kong place. I mean, no, it's not Kong. I don't know about that, but San Francisco. Thank you. I think I had more than 2 fans and 3 have showed up. Thank you.
Ever since watching Vincent D'Onofrio descend those steps in the cell, big fan.
Thank you, sir.
Just looking at the imagery you just showed us, which looks amazing. I just took an art history class, and you've been thrown around Caravaggio. Were there any other classical artists or
I started, so please don't be disappointed if you see and you say, that looks nothing like Fight Club, it looks nothing like Caravaggio. If it does, I would have failed. I think you look at something and you say, this is where I start. What I was interested in Caravaggio was Finger of God Lighting. It's from Infinity, early Ridley Scott films. Way far away from sunlight, it's kind of lit like that, it's composed in a particular way. Then you go in there and you start working, and suddenly Henry's best shot of filming is like this. Luke's is like that. Caravaggio would never do that shot. Do you want action? Do you want to stick to tableaus? So everything evolves and changes. I'm showing you where it started from. It's not like that. That was the original inspiration. Were there any other artists? Yes. I'd say most can't sue me. They're already dead. So a lot of stuff. Everything I learned in art school and bad TV and Discovery Channel, as I mentioned, somehow show up there.
I wanted to ask as a quick follow-up to that, who's your director of photography in the film?
On this film, it's Brendan Calvin. And the 3 films that I've done, I've got 3 different DPs, 3 people I love. The first one was my college professor from school. The second one was my focus puller. And this one, it's the man who's in the middle.
Wow.
Hi. My question is for Mr. Singh.
I was wondering, I'm a huge mythology buff, and I was wondering, I noticed like on IMDb that Hercules is in the movie.
No, he's not, but IMDb always tells the truth.
No.
It's all right.
regardless of IMDb and its lies, I was wondering how much of the mythology with Theseus did you incorporate into the film?
Unfortunately or fortunately, if you're a Greek fan, not too much. First of all, I think you know, knowing the Greek mythology, that they were never consistent. You know, sometimes somebody was their son, sometimes they ate them, sometimes they had incest with them, they had all sorts of things on different days, from different stories. So, Theseus, see what I wanted to do with it was, doing a God's film with Theseus is like doing a dinosaur movie with cavemen. They did not exist together in Greek literature or anything. So, once we had Henry, I must speak too fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Once we had Henry, I decided the gods were going to be fighting. If they were going to be fighting, the problem that I had was obeying the rules of physics that I mentioned earlier. I did not want to do action like the Chinese film of so I said, they can't do this. They have to fight with each other. They had to be young. And then I asked my question, if you were 83 million years old, wanted to live forever, would you want to look like anybody in their 50s or 40s or 60s, like me and Mark, would you want to look like that? So I just said, if you wanted to be immortal, thank you. I said, if you have to be immortal, the answer was you want to live immortal youthfully. So you can be wise. So the question of all the jokes on how can a 23-year-old be wise doesn't matter. How can an 80-year-old be wise when nature takes 23 million years to do anything? So for me, the idea is that they've been around forever. They chose to look young. And if anybody here thinks they'd rather look like an 80-year-old than a 20-year-old, I'm sorry, I'll see your pictures.
I like it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this question is for I was wondering, how do you feel about doing other India, like folk, like Red Oleander?
Hulk is an Indian?
No, folk, F-O-L-K. Like,
Sorry, it's not an accident. I'm getting
kind of like either Red Oleander or the Clay Tart. Would you ever try doing something like that?
You mentioned 3 films that I don't know. I'd say, am I interested in folk from India? Yes. Unfortunately, what I shoot tends to require a lot of money. If I was writing stuff, I might write there. And right now, that's why I think usually the films that I end up doing look like they're at the tail end of a dying genre. When everybody says serial killer films are dead, I go into the cell. And now they think too many Swords and Sandals films, and I do Immortals. Because for me, I just look at it and say, how can I put my DNA into a film that right now is on the pulse of pop culture? And I don't think right now Mahabharata is going to be on that pop culture's hit list very soon. So it's unfortunate, but I might. Thank you.
Hi, this question is for Henry. So I have to say, I love you in the Tudors. And we're excited for Superman and Immortals, so I was wondering what other genres of movies you'd want to experience.
Oh goodness, does superheroes movies count as sci-fi or not? Yeah? Maybe a sci-fi space-based movie.
Space movie?
Yeah, a sci-fi-based movie like that.
Hello, this question is for Tarzan.
A woman asking me a question?
We can talk later.
Okay.
All of your films are so huge in scope and so beautiful, and I was wondering, you've gone into people's minds, you've gone into people's stories, and now you're in mythology. What's next?
I think I'm about to do Snow White, which everybody asks why. I just think as long as I can have my DNA, I can have children. The only way I can pass my genes or memes on is through my films right now. So we'll talk. Yes, we'll talk, yes.
Hi, this is another question for Mr. Cabo. I absolutely love you in the Tudors. How are you going to deal with the increased fame from your movies?
I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect, so I'm just going to, wing it, play it by ear.
Thank you.
Luke, obviously earlier today we're here for Three Musketeers as well. With both Aramis and with Zeus, you're playing characters that have very, they're almost archetypical and have been interpreted many, many times. Can you talk about approaching characters like that and finding a new way to play them, or to play it your way in particular?
Well, it's me. It's nobody else, it's me, and I've never done it before, so I'm not going to be like anybody else. I think that's acting, isn't it? You can play a role that somebody else has played, but it'll never be the same, unless you want it to be the same. So this is Luke's Zeus, and Luke's Aramis, and hopefully they're different enough to be categorized into my abilities and my skills.
And Isabel, obviously on Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, you work with somebody I would call one of the more demanding directors in town, very specific. That kind of experience, which is almost all physical and very, very, I would think, difficult for an actor, demanding for an actor, how does that compare to this experience, where so much of it is in a world that he has built completely as opposed to a world that we already recognize?
Right. Well, I enjoy working with Tarsem, who is also amazingly visual and very technical as well. But Tarsem's sets are so fun because he runs around giving hugs to everyone, and
especially the women.
And is just so encouraging, like the passion and the enthusiasm. It just is. It just seeps through, and everyone's inspired, and it's a very harmonious set. So, yeah.
All right, a few more.
Okay. This is for Tarzan. First of all, compliments on The Fall. It was just stunning all around and writing. It was amazing. That's actually the only thing of yours I've seen. But my question is amazing. It makes me want to see more.
Shot. Thank you. Do not particularly. You knew you were going to take licensing. You can shoot a mythology without pissing off a lot of people. You just figure out how many you want. You still end up getting a good story. You need to cast somebody young and look at somebody like who's going to be Zeus. I would be terrified of him. I can do really selfish, cheap, up top. I can probably do everything practical that there is. Very easy for me. I cannot do what these guys. I can do what this guy does. He's the producer. Sorry. What those guys do. And I don't know from where they get it. And for me, I just think for somebody like Luke to come in and be how old he is and talk like he's been there forever, it's terrifying for me. So, did I do the homework? Yes. Did I want to change it up? Yes. And should you? I think so. You see the Greeks showed with, through Caravaggio or anybody in the Renaissance period, are completely different from Greek pottery or the art that you see from the Greek rendition. Let's say if they had to paint Zeus, they would take, a really wise man in his 60s, take his face and put their boyfriend's body underneath it, and he looks bloody amazing. So for me, I have to look at that and just say, I don't want to do face replacement. How do we get an actor who can do all that? And he's sitting right there.
Celebrating the actual art of storytelling and the value of passing along these cultural stories between The Fall and this film, and then moving on to a Brothers Grimm movie. Is that accidental? Is that something that's just kind of emerged as you've been interested in the projects?
I'd say accidental, because The Fall was about what not to do in story writing. Everybody would tell you the story has to move forward, blah, blah. The Fall was just about using another person's body language. If you're telling the story to them, if he's leaning back and talking to his BlackBerry as Mark usually does, then he's not interested. You introduce the crazy chick that'll go on to McDonald's and kill a lot of people. You pick up the pace. So that was about reading the body language of a person to tell a tale. It was about storytelling. This one is not. It's a much bigger audience, and it's a Greek tale that you're playing with. So I'd say chance. Just to say, not calculated.
This question is for Tarsi. How's it going, dude?
Shoot, sir.
You came up at a time, it was like late 80s, early 90s, doing videos and commercials, working with David Fincher. What was that like at that time? Like with a bunch of directors like that? It must have been kind of energetic or something. Passion. And also, can you please do Dune? Because that'd be awesome.
There's a man I live in. interested in sci-fi. What was it like? I was actually in school when most of those guys were doing their desk work. So when they had Mark Romanek, Fincher, Spike Jonze actually came along with me. All that gang, when they were doing music videos, I was still in school. And I was in class with Zach and Michael Bay. We were in the same class, so all that porn, visual porn that you see up there, our batch seems to be responsible for it. We somehow put pictures about storytelling. So when I came out, Fincher I met after. I think they were putting some of my earlier school work. I met him at a museum in Modern